Hello and welcome. What have you been reading the last few weeks? I started Horror Mayhem a day early and I reread the Haunted Canada collection, book 1, 2, and 3. These are by Pat Hancock. And as I went through and read, I made sure to tag the stories because if you watched on Monday and I uploaded A Call to Blood, a vampire story, I think my Monday uploads are going to be ghost stories. But I also reread that in preparation for Horror Mayhem, and I began the book Haunted Canada, the second terrifying collection, and this is by Joel A. Sutherland. And this is a collection of 3 books, Haunted Canada 4, 5, and 6. Wherever you are in Canada, chances are spooky spirits are closer than you think. A ghostly dog leaps out from the darkness of an abandoned hospital in Coquitlam, British Columbia. A phantom ship emerges from the fog off the coast of Newfoundland. Unseen hands grasp at children in a Winnipeg, Manitoba schoolyard. With over 100 true ghost stories from across the country, prepare to be haunted. And yes, every now and again, there are stories from the city where I live. So I started reading some of those, and I may finish them this month, I'm not sure. I also started reading horror short stories, and this is edited by Joanna Blythe. The first stories that I read here were Edgar Allan Poe. So I read The Pit and the Pendulum. I'm pretty sure I read that before, but it was a great read this time and definitely keeps you wondering up until the end. And I also read Bernice. That was a first-time read. The next story that I started in the collection was The Haunter of the Dark. That's by H.P. Lovecraft. And I actually realized partway through that story, because it seemed really familiar, it's the same story that I just read a few months ago in my H.P. Lovecraft compendium, which was great because I do enjoy reading the Lovecraft books. The next short story in this collection is Dagon, which I've also read. So I'll be continuing to work through both of those collections for Horror Mayhem. Another book, and this will be a reread, or novella, I guess, is Carmilla. And this is by Sheridan Le Fanu. Definitely enjoyed the read the first time. Looking forward to reading it again. And let me know if you've read Carmilla. Do you remember any information about this mysterious mother and who she was? So I'm really going to be paying attention this read through. The other thing that I've been reading the last few weeks, and I've mentioned it briefly, but for me, June is going to be UFO month. So I have these baskets are great. I just started doing this actually first for Horror Mayhem and now for the UFOs. So in the past week, I've read Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. It was an excellent read. That's the second book to Hunt for the Skinwalkers. And I should mention, so this one is by James T. Lakatsky, Colum A. Kelleher and George Knapp. This is by Colum A. Kelleher and George Knapp. When I finish the two of those, because there is some interesting information that came up in this book, and if you saw me talk about it before, this actually had, according to the front page, Department of Defense, Defense Office of Pre-Publication and Security Review has the case number, and it was cleared for public release on May the 11th, 2021. So this book, which is 2021, has information that was very different from They're Already Here, and this is by Sarah Scholes. And this for me is a reread. I now have my own copy, thanks to my hubby, but I originally borrowed it from the library. Now this book was published in 2020, so just a year before Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. And of course she does talk about ATIP and Robert Bigelow, as well as many other people that are mentioned in these books. I find it very fascinating now to read this again. I was curious before about it, but now comparing the information between the two, and this is why I love old school book in hand, because I can put these three books together, and I'll probably do that out in the living room on my big desk, and then go through them page by page and make comparisons of the information, and then having to decide who's accurate. After I finish reading that and mixing it in with the Horror Mayhem books, the other book I'll be reading again is Encounter at Rendlesham Forest. This also has issues with classified information, some things that can't be discussed. This is by Nick Pope and John Burroughs and Jim Peniston. John Burroughs and Jim Peniston are both retired USAF, and they were the individuals who saw the anomaly, unidentified object, whatever you want to call it, and it has some interesting tie-ins with those other books. Another book that I'll be revisiting, this is also by Nick Pope, is The Uninvited, an expose of the alien abduction phenomena. A book that I've had for years, and like so many others, has been patiently waiting, is UFOs, Myths, Conspiracies, and Realities. This is by John B. Alexander. I believe his name has come up in there. And as I'm going through it, and this came up actually in one of the other books, may have been in the reference part, they mention Mysteries of the Unknown, the UFO phenomena, which, ta-da, I just happen to have, and I need to read my Mysteries of the Unknown collection. So that was perfect. And as I was going through, and I have another collection, and this is a discard series that I was lucky enough to get. This is volume 20 of Mysteries of Mind, Space, and Time. And this also has information about UFOs. So a nice little bonus there. And I'll be talking more about all of that in June. And yes, it is handy that they're all in a basket. Panther has somewhat forgiven me for taking up part of his table. The other thing, of course, I need to get to, and I've been continuing with, is the 24 in 2024 reading. So I need to finish The Amber Glass, as I read The Golden Compass a few weeks ago. Yes, I stayed up till 1:30 in the morning to finish that in a day. Not sure if I'll be doing the same with the Amber Spyglass. And yes, I know it's book 3 of the series, but my library didn't have book 2 available. So I will be getting that read. And then I also have City of Bones. This will be a reread. It's from the Mortal Instrument series, and this is by Cassandra Clare. So I need to get the 2 of those read because I need to get them back to my public library. Then yesterday, because I need to get things together, I ended up going through, and I'm just trying to pull them all quick together here. I ended up getting all my notes together on Helena Blavatsky. So these are the book references that I used, and when I put together my Hoax or Holy Grail episode, I'll have all of these listed at the back. So we have Secret Religions, a complete guide to Hermetic, pagan, and esoteric beliefs. We have Whispers, The Secret History of the Spirit World. This is by J.H. Brennan, and I actually need to read this book, but I referred to the pages on Blavatsky. We have Dark Dimensions. This is edited by Colin Wilson. There is an article in here on Helena Blavatsky, and it is written by one of the members of the Theosophical Society, Christmas Humphreys. He joined in 1920, so the information presented by him obviously has a different viewpoint than other people who are just talking about the society but haven't been a part of it. Also, Ghost Hunters. This is by Deborah Blum. If you watch my Hoax or Holy Grail episode on the Fox sisters, you know this book in reference to that subject was not very good, and I don't know who did the research. But in this case, with Blavatsky, their information this time coincides with the other sources. And that's why it's always good to have a variety of books, resources, websites, whatever you're using, so that you can compare and see. Some people will have some differences, but you'll also notice that many of them have the same information. There is also some information in another book from my Mysteries of the Unknown series. This was by Time Life, and this is Psychic Voyages. Now, what I found fascinating, because again, in my Mysteries of Mind, Space, and Time, this was volume 4. This series was published in I think it's 1992. Yes, it is. And that volume starts with Helena Blavatsky. Now, the Time Life series, and there is a reason I'm pointing this out, was published in, here we go, 1987. Why am I pointing that out? Because 2 of the paragraphs on Helena from Mysteries of Mind, Space, and Time are exactly the same 2 paragraphs from the Time Life book. So the individual who wrote the article on her, there's some other information, but it's really bizarre that you would have exactly the same words for 2 paragraphs. So there you go. It isn't just students in high school you need to watch for plagiarism. Then I also read the 3 articles that I found on Blavatsky from the web, because I like to do a mix of information. And the sources there were the Britannica Encyclopedia, BlavatskyArchives.com, and LearnReligions.com. 4 articles. And I checked out Wikipedia. So that was very interesting, and I'll have some surprises in that episode. And yes, I do have a file on them. So I have the Fox sisters, Blavatsky. The 3rd tab I have medium psychics in general. I may change that to some other information. So I've got the reading done, the notes done. Now I just need to put it together as a presentation. And that is everything I have been up to in the last couple of weeks in terms of my reading and my projects. Gives you some hints for what's coming up on the channel. Let me know down below, what have you been reading? Are you part of Horror Mayhem? Are you doing the 24 in 2024 book challenge? Until next time, take good care.